So of all the excuses that I hear from Democrat politicians about why there was no problem with the 2020 election, and there's nothing to see here, there's nothing to look into, saying that what you're doing is calling black people corrupt is the worst kind of defense. This was advanced by Michigan's top law enforcement officer, who is Attorney General Dana Nessel, who is also a Democrat, who blasted, according to the Detroit Free Press, the legal efforts of Donald Trump on Wednesday, saying there's no evidence of misconduct, and they're unfairly attacking black voters and workers in Detroit, and this will not change the outcome of the election. She says there's no evidence to support any of the claims, and they are demonstrably false. Well, how do we know that, Miss Nessel? How do we know they're demonstrably false until we've actually been through the legal process and checked all these things? Seems like you're at least jumping the gun somewhat, doesn't it? But this is where we pivot hard into identity politics, which is the least productive conversation that we could be having about these elections. She says, really the themes that we see that persist are this: black people are corrupt, black people are incompetent, and black people can't be trusted. No Republicans have said this. The only people who utter words like that are the Democrats. This has come out of the mouth of a Democrat in defense of what appears to be evidence that suggests voter fraud. That's the narrative that is continually espoused by the Trump campaign and their allies in these lawsuits. That's pretty radical. I think that's a hell of a smear, and I don't think is an accurate summary of what's being said. For anyone who doesn't remember, Detroit is the polling station that went quite viral because the Republican poll watchers, as evidenced by the, I think it was 29 signed affidavits by that Rudy Giuliani collected and has submitted, so sworn testimony, that they were not allowed in. And there's videos of them chanting, let us in, as the people running the poll boarded up the windows, so these poll watchers, the Republican poll watchers, couldn't even get in. And according to Giuliani, not a single Republican was let into the polling booth, which means that legally it would be an illegitimate count. And the mail-in ballots that were not verified by both a Republican and Democrat poll watcher, which need to be verified legally, would not be valid. And that's somewhere in the region of 130,000 votes. So there's a lot to play for here. And this probably would come at least close to evening the odds. But she says that Nessel says that the lawsuits focused on allegations of misconduct in Detroit, a city that typically votes for Democrats that has a majority black population. Now, Giuliani has made allegations that the Democrat machine essentially fixes the votes in these very long-term deep blue places. And there is evidence to suggest that that has happened, and it would be worth a further investigation. But she complains that in other states where the majority white population voted for Biden, and he earned a higher percentage of the vote this year than Hillary Clinton in 2016, such as Oakland and Kent counties, have not been the focus of Trump lawsuits. Well, I mean, that could well be a coincidence, or she could well be pointing the finger and saying, does that look suspect? And I mean, it does look suspect generally, just the raw number of votes Biden got. The last count I saw on CNN, I think it was yesterday, Biden was at nearly 78.5 million votes. And in 2008, Obama got 69 million. So are we really to believe that Biden got 10 million more votes than the first black president? And if you can remember anything about Obama's campaign in 2012, it was, I mean, I would describe it as messianic. You know, Obama was the hope and change candidate. He was getting people enthused. He had something new that he was going to present, and he was the guy. The idea that senile old Joe Biden is the guy that gets more people out and more people than the second highest voted for candidate as well, which is Donald Trump. I mean, it is suspicious in my view. But she says that the lawsuits are part of a national strategy aimed at attacking the credibility of the election. In Michigan, Biden received roughly 146,000 more votes than Trump, according to the unofficial election results. Well, again, most of this is roughly the same as the number of mail-in ballots that were received in Detroit. So it really does suggest that maybe there could have been a coordinated effort to keep the Republican poll watchers out so they couldn't validate the mail-in ballots because they may have found that the mail-in ballots were not valid. thus slicing Biden's lead to a razor-thin margin. But this is just the way that she formulates this. It's like they think that the public are stupid and we are supposed to just go along with them because they are the ones in the position of authority. She says none of the claims in any of the lawsuits are true, but even if some were true, they would not change the results of the election in the state. Well, they might, actually. In fact, it seems that there may be quite a very decisive factor in this. So if all of these ballots are changed, I mean, Giuliani is alleging somewhere like 300,000 north of that. So if that is the case, then this could well change the election. But she says the lawsuits are baseless and frivolous. I would be sanctioned. I would be looking at a loss of licensure if I did this. And it will impact the long-term negative impact on society's ability to trust the electoral process. Well, I mean, if you were cheating, then you would say that, wouldn't you? That would be your position. We don't want people to lose faith in these elections, even though there's a lot of reason for them to think that there might be some kind of foul play going on. So it would be worth the investigation. But we don't want the investigation for reasons that just, it's racist. You're a racist. You think everyone who's a racist you think everyone involved in this is black. You hate black people. You're a racist. Don't bother looking. Trust us, the people who are being accused of cheating. We've got it all figured out.